All right, welcome back to the Pineapple Couch with B-Rob. We're going to be talking some WandaVision series finale. So if you haven't finished the show, go finish it and then come back because we're going to definitely be talking spoilers, post-credit scenes, all that stuff. And to do that, as I am joined every week, it is my good friend Peter Gonzalez. Peter, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to talk about.
There is, and I think uh ironically, like we did wait a bit for this to do this recording. Not that we really chose to, just things came up. And it's kind of allowed us each to have a little more time to process like what we actually just saw. So but I still really don't know what I saw. I still have a lot of emotions, but hopefully digging through this, we can start to make some sense of what happened. So final spoiler warning for WandaVision season 1. All of season 1 is done. And we'll jump right into it, folks. So let's talk about it. WandaVision finale season 1 had 9 episodes that we'll get to later. Some stuff we heard about rumors, but let's get right into it. This episode 9 picks off right where we left in episode 8. So Wanda versus Agatha to free the kids. She's got them on her witch rope, I guess is how I would describe it, you know?
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
it's the purple magic strangled around their necks.
yeah, and so basically Wanda then is going to fire some magic at Agatha to free the kids. And we find out, though, that that's what Agatha wanted. The kids go to safety. They run to the house. And Agatha, we kind of can tell how we saw in earlier episodes how she's trying to absorb energy. So she can do that. She's trying to like kind of tempt Wanda or taunt Wanda into attacking. And it works out in Agatha's favor that time. But I mean, I kind of think it was worth it if you're Wanda because you got the kids safe. We'll get to that later. But then Wanda, with a very nice move to put Agatha down, she hits her with a car, a bus, a giant vehicle, and we get she goes to see what happens, and we get the Wizard of Oz type I guess Easter egg of the Wicked Witch of the West, right?
Yep.
Is that what it was with the witch boots under the thing? So that was cool. Let's anything from that to start off, Peter? Did you get anything from that initial?
I mean, I thought it was a pretty interesting way to start off the episode. It was like, we're fully going into this right now. I liked how her mom's side, her mom voice, like the way she protected the kids. I thought that really came out when she told them and how she talked to the kids. It really kind of set up that Agatha had kind of crossed the line by going for the kids.
And it's another thing that it's a good point you make because even though this world seems fake or whatever, we do see how much Wanda actually cares for her children and that motherly instinct. And you're right, Agatha crossed the line and Wanda's not going to hold back, it would seem. So the next big thing that happens is as Agatha is disappeared, hit by the bus, wherever, White Vision arrives, the Vision from Sword that Hayward's been working on. The first thing he says to her, he says Wanda, exactly like how Vision in episode 1 or the beginning of this hex says Wanda to her. Did you notice that?
Yep.
And so that's
With
heavy.
Such stark difference.
And then he grabs her head, and initially you're thinking like, oh, is he like, I don't know, just holding her head and gonna say that he loves her, he remembers her? No, he starts to try to crush her head with his vibranium hands, and he does like kind of taunt Wanda and say, I thought you were stronger. And right as that is going on, Hex Vision, our guy, comes up to save the day. He sends White Vision crashing into like a Winnebago type thing that I don't know what type of Winnebago that was. That thing blew up like it had like just 35 grenades in it. What'd you think of the whole White Vision Wanda interaction there? And then obviously Hex Vision coming in to save the day.
I think again it just kind of drove home the reality existing outside of the hex. Like, this is not what she was expecting. It's not what she wanted, and all of a sudden, this version of Vision is coming in with the sole intent just to kill her, basically, which was what everything Vision wasn't. Vision was all about protecting Wanda. So
yeah,
I think that really shook her too, which is why she didn't really have a chance to fight back. But I will say, when Hex Vision showed up, that was such a cool moment because he was so like, great. Not going to let it happen.
And we've been kind of. So when was it episode 7 the last time we saw him and Darcy. Like, you know how so we've been kind of waiting for Vision, I guess, to show up
Yes.
for a couple episodes, even though it might only been like 10, 15 minutes of time in the show. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was hype. When he showed up, that was pretty sweet. And so we're gonna get a cool interaction next between Hex, Vision, and Wanda. Wanda basically apologizes to Vision and says, "I should have told you when I figured out what I'd done." And Vision kind of like has these figured out what Wanda went through after he talked to Darcy. He says that he understands what she's going for. Kind of wanted him to be a little harsher because it's like, yeah, you're going through a lot, Wanda, but you got a lot of people like kind of as your prisoners. But nevertheless, Wanda then says to Vision, "I can fix this." And Vision says, "Can you?" Because, and we're kind of getting that back and forth from earlier in the season. But Wanda says, "Yes, Vision, this is our home." And Vision's like, "All right, let's fight for it." And you get, for the first time since episode 4 or 5, Wanda and Vision are finally back on the same page. They're fighting together, and I really, really enjoyed that conversation. I have to say, what do you think?
I liked it too because last time we'd seen them together, they were kind of arguing. It was Halloween episode. I think that was the last time they were together. And so to see them come together, and I think when you get to the end of the episode, it really reinforces the strength of this conversation because when we talk about the end of the episode, this whole interaction between them really comes full circle by the end of the episode because it's really the real Vision, so to speak, that lives in her. That's, you know.
Yeah.
I try not to get too ahead of myself, but like it was
hard.
really
It's
cool
hard.
to see, and I liked it. I thought it really connected the two of them.
I agree. And so what we got, we basically have a 2v2 battle, or a 1v1 battle. You got Wanda's going to follow Agatha towards the town, and Hex Vision is going to collide into White Vision. You hear the like vibranium smash together, and they go fighting into the sky, which is honestly just the two Visions going at it, shooting the beams was awesome. My favorite part of that initial interaction, though, between them, Peter, was when White Vision goes to rip off the Mind Stone on Hex Vision, just like Thanos did. Vision is able to phase through. And then I was like, wait, why didn't he do that to Thanos? And you remember he couldn't because he got stabbed by that. Was it Cole Obsidian who did it? Or it was that thing. And in Infinity War. And so that's why Thanos was really able to do that. So it was cool to see kind of a reference back to that, but Vision is successful this time. And then we're going to go, we're going to see Monica trapped in Pietro/Ralph's house, which is tough. This is tough. I think we should just go into it all right now. Let's just get this out of the way. So, folks, I love this show. This is tough for me right now. I'm just saying. So basically, Pietro, fake Pietro, whatever, has Monica in kind of just like a basement type thing where he's playing guitar, video games, very reminiscent of what he kind of was doing in Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, that character. So they're getting your hopes up even more. He demonstrates the quick speed, the super speed Quicksilver skills by keeping Monica in the room. And then Monica finds like a headshot, like an acting headshot in some folder in the room. And we find out that Evan Peters' character, who we thought was Pietro, fake Pietro, Quicksilver, whatever, his name is Ralph Boner. And it's not X-Men Pietro, I guess. And so then Monica is going to like kind of figure out like what's controlling. Like, so this is not Wanda's brother. Who is this guy? How is he doing this? And so she realizes that this necklace he has on is kind of Agatha's way of controlling him and manipulating him. And I can't get over this because then Monica's just going to rip the shit off. And so he's back to being Ralph Boner and he has no idea what's going on. And he's like, don't hurt me. You just talk for a little so I can. I'm just really bummed. I don't understand why you have a guy like Evan Peters come in who's a fan favorite just to make a boner joke. And I am very, very immature, and I laugh at all sorts of things like that. But if I am the one being like, "Are you fucking serious? We have a boner joke that I'll let up to," I just don't understand why you bring him in and get all our hopes like that. What do you think?
So, a lot of my thoughts were echoes of what you said. This is the one thing we talked about. Aside, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
nothing about the show except for this one little kind of big thing that happened. But my initial thought, because I'll die on this hill where I stand that he has to be multiverse. The first thought I had, I can't even speak because I'm so. The
Yeah, I
first
know.
thought I had was I remembered in the Captain America movie, Agent 13, who we were led to believe was just random Agent 13. She was nobody, just an agent assigned to watch him. And then in Civil War, is it Civil War,
I think
where he
so.
goes to Peggy's funeral, and he finds out that Agent 13 is really Sharon Carter,
Mm-hmm.
Peggy's niece. So up until that point, that she was just some random Agent 13. So I fully believe, based on that little glimmer of hope that I'm giving myself, that he is X-Men universe, Fox universe, Quicksilver. I fully believe that because it doesn't match up that he has a name that corresponds with him, that he has a picture with that the picture and the person are the same name. When like Dottie had a different name, everybody else in town had different names that Wanda gave them. He doesn't. It doesn't make sense that he has the speed. Like that kind of threw me off. Like why would he be really fast?
Yeah, can Agatha give someone super speed? That's what I feel like that's a stretch.
Because what stood out to me too is when she was fighting Wanda at the beginning, she's like, I take power from the undeserving. So I don't think she would give him power. I feel like she did manipulate his talking points in places, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that she gave him the speed. I feel like episode 4 was that we interrupt this broadcast where it's Jimmy Woo meets Monica and he has a witness protection person. And Marvel's not going to toss out some random witness protection person in Westview. Like that doesn't make sense to me. I know that the aerospace engineer has been debunked, that how they
Mm-hmm.
decided to proceed with that. I believe multiverse theory, and there is that very recent Elizabeth Olsen interview that talks about Pietro, and I sent you the clip, and it's
Yeah.
about she mentions multiverse and how she didn't understand the multiverse until she gets to Doctor Strange 2. She understood the multiverse theories. So talking about that right when you're talking about Evan Peters playing Pietro, and just what's been littered throughout interviews throughout, because I like deep dived, like I went to like
Yeah.
read almost every interview, everything possible. I feel like he is going to be Quicksilver. I feel like, yeah, especially if we have the same J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man
Yep.
from the different worlds. Like if he can mesh into this world, it's highly possible that something brought other people into this world too, even if it wasn't Wanda. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm fully still believing that he's not Ralph. That's
Yeah,
that's my
I'm 100% with you. I am disappointed that this is kind of how this storyline in this series ended. I do think, I guess I'll die on this hill. I believe Kevin Feige is a genius, and whatever Marvel does really honestly always works. And I don't think Kevin Feige would go down this road again as kind of just an FU troll to the fans. Because the last time something like this happened is like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. I love Iron Man 3. It's one of my favorite MCU movies, and not that many people share that opinion, but I love it. And it really pissed people off when the Mandarin was kind of revealed to be fake and not the real Mandarin. It was all like a scheme. And I think this is worse than that because Quicksilver is such an iconic character in the comics. So is Mandarin. I'll give you that. But Evan Peters was also really loved from those Fox X-Men universe movies. And those movies have a lot of problems, but Evan Peters' role in them is fantastic. And I just think the fact that he shows up and we see J. Jonah Jameson, like you said, and the next Doctor Strange movie is called Multiverse. There's gotta be some sort of connection that we are not seeing. I was thinking maybe like So like Chthon is like the Darkhold person, the god of chaos magic, super bad dude. He could have brought Pietro over from a different multiverse, maybe potentially. I think it would be freaking insane if they waste him and don't, because it's like then I just don't understand why the MCU doesn't want to have a Quicksilver so bad. Because if you think about it, they introduced him in Age of Ultron, and after like what 10 minutes of him being a good guy, he dies, and then they don't mention him literally ever again until is it this show? It might be.
I think
And
so.
then you bring in Evan Peters, and it's like, oh, he was no one. I just, I would be surprised if there wasn't a bigger plan here, I guess.
And I feel like if you were gonna do the whole faked out Quicksilver wasn't really anybody, bring in some other random actor to do the
Yeah.
recasting, and then it works that way. But when you do a recasting that's so specific to something, it has to lead to more. And I feel like Marvel does do that, where they put things in play that they're going to use later on. So I
Hmm.
almost feel like they wanted to do Quicksilver, but also they didn't get him cleared until like the very end. They didn't get clearance to use Evan Peters to begin with.
Yeah.
So I feel like because of that, a lot of stuff maybe isn't fully fleshed out. But also, I have to remind myself this is one part of a larger, Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, there were 22 movies in 2020, 21, 22 in the first couple chunk of movies that were connected. So things can definitely expand. And then again, there could be thousands of explanations for how he gets in, because Wanda's chaos magic is supposed to weaken the multiverses anyways.
Yeah.
So
We could learn, I mean, just jumping off what you just said there, the beginning of Doctor Strange or whatever the turning point is of that film, we might see Wanda figure out or Doctor Strange explain like, hey, how this is how he got here. I'm holding out hope for that. Let's get back into what's going on in Westview or right outside of Westview. Jimmy Woo is captured by Hayward slash Sword. And basically Jimmy Woo is kind of talking trash to Hayward, saying like, dude, you're gonna get in trouble for this. Like there's tapes, like there's receipts, bro. Like you're not gonna get away with this. And Hayward's basically all he says is like, well, if I'm the one who stops Wanda Maximoff and I rescue the vision that she stole, everyone will call me a hero. Which sounds very shallow, but like maybe it's kind of true given all that's happened recently in the MCU. Jimmy kind of gives a threat of basically saying like his friends from Quantico are going to be here within an hour. What is Quantico? Do we know?
I think it's just the FBI.
Okay.
But I think, but also, I can't remember if Sharon Carter is FBI or CIA. That's the only thing I don't remember.
Okay. Well, maybe someone will write in and tell us. Well, we're gonna get Sharon Carter in a week, so maybe
That's true.
we'll relearn some stuff about her. And then so Jimmy is somehow in this when he's talking with Hayward and kind of getting reamed. Hayward makes a corny Vision joke. Jimmy Woo is somehow able to steal a buzzing phone off the table when he's surrounded by 15 sword agents while he is handcuffed. So that happens. That shows how dumb Hayward is, I guess. And so he's thrown in basically this like little jail cell that's kind of like a barn, I guess, or some hay. And he uses one of his magic tricks, I guess, to lockpick his way out of the handcuffs. Shout out to Ant-Man again. He is Jimmy Woo, and it's aspiring magician. And yeah, and then he calls Quantico and says, "Hey, I need you to be here within an hour." So that's what we get from Jimmy. And then let's go back into Westview, Peter. Wanda's going to follow Agatha downtown to Westview, and we start to get some explanation of what that book was a couple episodes ago. So Agatha's going to tell Wanda that there's an entire chapter in the Darkhold about you, Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. The Darkhold is the book of the damned. The Scarlet Witch is not born, but she is forged. The Scarlet Witch's power is bigger than the Sorcerer Supreme. She is destined to destroy the world. And what did you take from that? Because that is so much to unravel
That
there.
was
That's
just
just
so
an
much information so
information
quickly.
dump. Just whoa.
I mean, I think the forging definitely speaks to the trauma she's had to deal with. I mean, episode 8 gave us the full look at all the trauma she's experienced. I think what was interesting was when she's looking at the Darkhold. On the one page, you see the Scarlet Witch. On the other page, you see what in my mind is allusions to the multiverse with the different spheres.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I think it's interesting the comment stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme, because I also don't think, is Doctor Strange officially the Sorcerer Supreme?
I don't know if he is officially yet. He's on his way for sure.
Right. So I think that was interesting.
I am skeptical of the fact, like, the Scarlet Witch's power is bigger than the Sorcerer Supreme. I just like the Sorcerer Supreme in the comic books is like, it's kind of freaking insane. And I know the Scarlet Witch is too. So maybe what that meant was that Agatha saying, yeah, you're way stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme right now because he's not the Sorcerer Supreme yet. That could be what it is. Or maybe this Wanda is truly the most powerful human in the entire universe. Could be definitely true. And then let's talk about the Darkhold a little, Peter. The Book of the Damned. Who created the Darkhold? Can you let everyone know? Because I believe you do know this.
I do. I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong, though, if I say
Chthon, right?
Yes. Okay, good.
Okay,
I am right. Yeah. I am right. Chthon,
yeah. Confident here. Come on. I knew you had it.
Oh, yeah. So essentially, he's like we said, the dark chaos magic. However, he's like, he can't get into this world, basically. Mm-hmm. However, in the comics, he uses Wanda. I think he also specifically uses the kids also to kind of come through the world because of her continued use of the magic, which does kind of start to break things down. Excitedly so for us fans, but also not so great for the universe in the MCU because things are going to start to go haywire.
Yeah, and so, he's a super back like hundreds and thousands of years ago or whatever. This dude's around, and he's a super bad person. And what he does is he writes the Darkhold. And it's just the Darkhold, just think of the worst book that could possibly ever exist that just gives the people who use it power, chaos magic, just super dark spells that are banned everywhere. And so he can kind of use that and that chaos magic that people use from the book, like you were saying, to try to get into this world. And it is interesting. I think kind of what might have happened in this series is that Agatha's kind of been with Chthon, or has had this Darkhold for a while. That's why she was persecuted as a witch in the 1600s. And basically, the Darkhold and her had just been waiting by. And then I would say probably the Darkhold helped Agatha sense what was going on with Wanda, and that's why it's migrating towards the Scarlet Witch, because that's maybe how Chthon can come back.
Which, I mean, will be quite the setup for Doctor Strange too. Mm-hmm. I think how much more can Wanda take, though? It's like, let's just throw one more thing at her.
I know, it's crazy. I think what might happen, actually, we'll wait. I'm getting way too ahead of myself. And so we'll go back into this conversation between Wanda and Agatha. Wanda's going to say, like, hey, I'm not who you think you are. Agatha then goes and lifts the spell that Wanda has put all the citizens of Westview under. And then Dottie comes up to Wanda, and we find out her name is Sarah. And she asks Wanda if she can let her child wake up, get out of her room. She just wants to hold her. And then this slowly starts happening. More and more townspeople are coming up to Wanda. I believe Herb says, like, I don't even know why I didn't want to be here anymore. Just like they're seriously confused. And then Deborah, Jo, Rupp, they're all telling her how when they sleep, they get her nightmares. So this is like awful. And I really quickly wanted to go to you with the Dottie thing, because I just said that and I went on. So we find out, Peter, that basically every child in Westview, except for the Halloween episode, is in their room sleeping, and their parents are unable to like either go in the room or talk to them, that is incredibly dark. And that is that is on Wanda. That's the one thing, like, Wanda has been through so much. As more and more of this evidence keeps stacking up of things, it's like, Jesus, Wanda, like, what's your take on this?
I saw it two ways. I saw how you just said, it's definitely a lot darker, but I also saw it, I think it's Halloween episode, pre-Halloween episode, where Vision says he never sees any kids. And I think when she has the conversation with Quicksilver, she talks about how, they're sparing the kids from the trauma of going through this. So I think part of her doesn't want them to deal with this trauma, going through the motions of being in this. but at the same time, she's not really aware of her power, so they
Yeah.
are being hurt through this.
Yeah. And this scene is just really like haunting and depressing, honestly. And then this causes Wanda to do like she like kind of explodes, and her chaos magic goes out, and all of a sudden all the citizens around Wanda have like a little red rope type thing, magic thing around their throats, and she's choking them with this chaos magic. And Wanda realizes this and realizes what she's doing, and so she stops it. And then I think the line that really forces Wanda to open up the hex, because that's what she does right after this, is Kitty from That 70s Show, Deborah Jo Rupp, says, "If you won't let us go, let us die."
That was chilling.
That was tough. That was tough. There's also, I forgot to say this, but there's one woman who comes up to Wanda and says, "Can you tell my husband is like, because he left on like a vacation or something, tell him to never come here," or something like that. So really dark stuff. Wanda opens up the hex and she starts basically saying, "All right, everyone can go. Everyone can go." And this does two things. It allows Hayward and Sword to get into the hex with their army type tanks and all their guns. Wanda then, though, has to stop this process because she starts to see Vision and her kids start to, I guess, like evaporate. It's not like the snap. It's a little different. It's kind of like puzzle pieces from that really famous WandaVision, the cover art on that comic book. But we see her put the hex back because she's going to lose her entire family. And so the people don't escape. And all that really happened is Hayward comes in. You had something about Oz the Great and Powerful. Do you want to go into that? A little Easter egg?
Yeah, another Easter egg. So when the whole world is being opened up, Westview in itself is transitioning through all the decades it's gone through. And for a small second on the movie theater marquee, it shows Oz the Great and Powerful, which was directed by Sam Raimi, who's doing Doctor Strange too. And that's another Wizard of Oz callback again with the boots at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think what was interesting when everyone starts falling apart, like we said, like the puzzle pieces. Whoops, my tripod fell down.
You're good. No worries. We're a common man podcast.
Okay.
That's how we do it, folks.
So with the puzzle pieces, I think it's because I believe it's earlier in the episode when Agatha's having her initial conversation. She tells Wanda that Wanda made the mistake of tying her kids and Vision to the hex. Because again, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's still going at this as she goes. So I think that was really telling, again, how Wanda's not fully aware of what she created.
Yeah. And so after she puts the hex back together, we get a very cool shot of, because Vision and the kids are put back together, stopped at like evaporating or whatever, and the family is together, ready to fight, and it is just 100%. It gave me so much like Incredibles vibes. It was the Incredibles Pixar movie, which, funny enough, I was thinking about this. I was like, oh wow, what a tribute to the Incredibles, and I was like, oh, what? The Incredibles are basically a tribute to the Fantastic Four. If you think about it, like,
it's very true.
Yeah. So hopefully Fantastic Four comes soon. Fantastic Four confirmed, some would say. Just kidding. And so the family's ready to fight, and the one thing though we start to notice is Wanda's hands are all discolored and looks like the life force is kind of like being sucked out of them. Like, so that was very gnarly. And basically now what we have happen is we have 3 battles that are going to happen to finish off this finale. The first one we have is Hex Vision versus White Vision. The other one we have is kids versus the military, which is a funny line, but that is true. That's what happens. And then you have Wanda versus Agatha, obviously still yet to come. So, Peter, let's start with Hex Vision versus White Vision. Actually, let's start with the kids versus the military. We'll go through that pretty quick. Basically, they're all getting ready to fight. The military's here now. They have 3 threats, and so Wanda and Vision Vision says to the kids, like, "I'm sorry, we haven't prepared you for this," basically. And then Wanda goes, "But you were born for it." And so she tells the kids to go take out the military. Not take out, just kind of like disarm, not kill anyone, obviously. But and so they're able to successfully do that. Wiccan and Speed, they use their powers, and then the bad douchebag Hayward gets out of the car with a gun and just starts unloading on 2 children.
Like, he snapped. Like, Homeboy just
shot-
lost it at that
He
point.
shot 8 bullets or something at 2 like 10-year-olds, and which just the dude is lost his mind. He is off the rocker. That was kind of like, I do have problems with how they didn't really develop him enough, Hayward, but that I thought was actually a good kind of a good way, in a weird way, to like show like, yeah, dude, this dude's lost his mind. Like, he just pulled up on 2 10-year-olds with a pistol, who the 10-year-olds clearly weren't harming any of them, too, is the other thing. And so then what happens when he shoots those bullets is Monica Rambeau, Spectrum, what's the other one? Photon. We see her jump in front of the kids, and basically she allows the bullets to pass through her because her body is all like energy now, I guess, and it doesn't hurt her, and they drop. And then there's actually the one bullet gets by her, and it's headed right for Wiccan, and he uses his whatever magic, whatever his powers are, kind of, to stop the bullet, which then leads Hayward to run away like a scared douche. I just, every time I think of a way to like describe Hayward, it always ends with like something like that, just loser, something. I just don't like this guy. And then so he gets into the car and he starts like trying to bail. Which, one other thing about that, like, dude, the hex is closed, buddy. Like, where are you going? And just as he's doing that, we see a ice cream type truck, whatever that thing was that Darcy was driving, crash into Hayward, and Hayward is essentially done. He is caught, and in the post-credit scene, we do see, or at the end, I don't even think it's post-credit scene, we do see he is getting arrested. So that's the end of our boy Hayward for this episode. Let's get into Hex Vision versus White Vision. You want to take lead on this one, Peter?
So I thought that was very interesting and very Vision of it. Very Vision to have that kind of battle. It was so cerebral, eloquent, just...
You have two like destructive machines, but because it's Vision and Paul Bettany, they start talking about like the ship of Theseus instead of like fighting, which is great. But keep going. Sorry.
So they had this conversation about the ship of Theseus, and basically compare that theological analogy to their own selves as Hex Vision and White Vision, and it actually pauses the battle, which is so. It seems so bizarre. But it's also so Marvel to like, all this insanity is happening, and we're going to take a quick dip and go here and really hit you with something.
Yeah.
And so they're just having this back and forth, and it basically leads to a really interesting moment where Hex Vision tells White Vision that White Vision has the data inside of him. It's just buried in there. Like, he just needs to figure out how to get to it.
Yeah.
Because currently, White Vision's sole objective is to kill the Vision. However, technically he is the Vision.
Yeah, and so that's how Hex Vision kind of blows his mind, and is like, I think your Vision, like, I'm not the Vision. And so that's like how it compares to ships of Theseus. Because the ship of Theseus is all about, basically, you have this old boat, and if you slowly start replacing the planks on it, once all the original planks are gone and it's a new boat, is that the same boat? Or if you were to take all the pieces of the boat that you took off and put them together, is that the true ship of Theseus? And so that's an identical, I guess, analogy to these two Visions, because you have Vision, who has all the memories, all the rot, I guess, and then but doesn't have the new ship, like the sturdiness that White Vision has. But White Vision doesn't have any of the experiences or the journeys, I guess. I loved that. I thought that was so freaking cool how they brought that in. And yeah, that's a total Marvel move, because we could have watched them hit each other and shoot stuff with their vibranium, but I just really like that so much. I thought that was so cool.
It honestly could have been like that scene in Batman versus Superman, where Batman's fighting Superman, and then for some stupid reason they stop fighting. I forget what it is, but it's just something really dumb. So Marvel could have done that. Marvel's like, we are not DC. Like, we're going to do something actually really cool and make you think. So basically, Hex Vision is able to touch where the Mind Stone was for
White Vision.
White Vision. How many times am I going to say vision in this
Yeah,
sentence?
it's tough.
And he basically he taps into the data, and so he's able to see a lot of the events of the MCU up until this point. What was interesting was some of those events Vision wasn't at. Some of the Wanda events, he was stuff that Wanda would have had to have told him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting more, essentially, and more understanding of who Vision technically is. Even though he's technically still not OG Vision, he still now has the data of Vision.
Mm-hmm.
And then he dips.
Yeah, he dips. We have no idea where he goes. We have no idea how that will work of him getting that information. Will it just be information to him? Will he have some sort of like attachment to it? How will if he has all these memories of Wanda, does he just view those as I remember that, but I do not feel that way? I think there are a lot of possibilities for how that could go. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. I thought that was a good way to wrap that up. And so we have the final battle then, Peter, is Wanda versus Agatha. And so we see Wanda approach Agatha kind of like how she did in Age of Ultron to Tony and everyone. And we have her get inside Agatha's mind and takes her back to like the worst memory, basically, like how she does to all the Avengers. And it's back to the Salem in the 1600s, back to where Agatha was getting about to get like killed or whatever. And Wanda then tells Agatha that the difference between the two of them, kind of taunting her, is that Agatha did all this on purpose. Wanda didn't, which is true. That is true. It's a point for Wanda. And then, though, creepily, all the witches rise from the dead, and they end up turning on Wanda and calling her the Scarlet Witch. So they sense like how powerful she is. And then Agatha's like asking her, give me the power. I'll let you keep your fake reality with your fake family in Westview. I can fix the spell, all this sort of stuff. And we get back to the real world. And this is, I guess, where Wanda just starts to let freaking loose. But, we did see, I have to say, the crown kind of appear of the Scarlet Witch when she was in that memory with Agatha. What'd you take from that whole Agatha thing? Sorry, so much happened to that. I feel like I talked for an hour and then, but
no, not at all. I mean, I think it was really interesting to see how Wanda created this, sort of put Agatha through this memory trauma that she endured, but Agatha was able to flip it because, again, Agatha's had years and years and centuries of learning stuff. And she basically also tells Wanda that Wanda's basically broken, that her whole world is broken, everything's broken, and she's never it's never really gonna be reality because it's broken. So she's basically just piling more onto her, as if episode 8 wasn't enough. She's like, let me just keep throwing things at you and show you that you're never gonna have happiness, you're never gonna have closure, you never have anything. And I thought that was a really interesting way to, again, play up the grief and the trauma aspect, where it's like she's reinforcing all the negativity and telling that that's who Wanda's going to be for the rest of her life. So Wanda's basically then it's like, okay, you know what? Just, I'm going to throw everything at you. But again, Agatha wants that. She wants her to throw it and let her have it.
Yeah, and we see Wanda start to fire off all her chaos magic and hitting Agatha. And as the audience at this point, we're kind of thinking that Wanda's just like kind of done and she doesn't have a master plan here. And she's just kind of like, get this away from me. And so she starts really just pouring in to Agatha. Like every other second, she's blasting giant magic, and she starts to look incredibly frail and drained, kind of like how her hands were earlier in the episode. Like the whole body, it looks like she's about to die, I guess. And then Agatha taunts her one more time and drains all the magic. And right when she really is going to send like the kill shot, nothing. She's not able to use her magic. I think does she try twice? It might be twice.
I think twice, yeah.
She tries twice, and so she has no idea what's going on. And then we see Wanda start to slowly like come back to normal, I guess. And she reveals that she actually cast runes on the hex on the outsides. And because of what Agatha taught her earlier, only the witch who plants the runes can use magic in a given space. So that's like checkmate. Agatha, call back to an earlier episode as well. So Wanda absorbs back all of her chaos magic, and I think some of Agatha's dark magic. and takes the form of the true Scarlet Witch in the MCU. What we saw in the earlier episodes, Peter, in the reflection in her eyes when she was with the Mind Stone, it was so badass. Her costume as the Scarlet Witch is so sick. She is 100 times cooler now in the MCU. Not that I didn't like Scarlet Witch, I just felt like they hadn't explored her enough. And now we're at that level where I think we've talked about this. It's kind of similar to like the Phoenix Force in a way of Jean Grey, but I could not get enough of the Scarlet Witch finally just being so badass. What did you think?
It was a really cool way to show it because, again, it's a culmination of the 8 episodes up to that moment. So you have, well, not just the 8 episodes, all the little moments that she's been in all the other movies that kind of show you what her power's been. And then in this moment, when she becomes who she's meant to be, it's such a sick costume, like we talked about. Like, it has echoes of Magneto to me, like the color scheme. I definitely got some of the fact that the one was more of a burgundy as opposed to like the bright red. So I thought that was really cool, and I like how she could have also at that point just destroyed Agatha, but instead she like brings her back down to earth and like basically tells her, "You're gonna stay here. You're gonna stay in this little town of Westview, and you're gonna play the role that you invaded my world with, the nosy neighbor, and that's where you're gonna be stuck." And I thought it was interesting that again, this does set up if she's gonna come back in the future, but Agatha does tell her a couple things.
Yeah, she tells Wanda that she has no idea what she has unleashed, and she's going to need her help. Like you said, it's setting her up to be in the future. And I think they probably, when they said this line in the show, they set it up so she could come back or she couldn't. I think at this point, when they've seen the audience's reaction to Catherine Hahn's character and how successful that would be, I would be shocked if she is not back. I see her maybe taking some sort of Loki role, honestly, in Marvel. And we start to see her around a lot, maybe in Phase 4. But yeah, it is a kind of, she's basically telling Wanda, like, you don't know what you're doing with this Darkhold. You unleash some stuff. You're going to need me. And Wanda's like, good, because I know where you are. I'll come get you. And that kind of wraps up the Wanda-Agatha fight. And we're going to have now, it's going to get really sad. WandaVision and the twins are going to head home after all the threat has been taken care of. They go into the house. They tuck their kids in. They say goodbye. You had a good point in our notes where you said, wouldn't Billy be able to read her mind and know that was coming? Yeah. I'm curious, like how maybe he did knew and just accept it. Maybe Wanda was blocking it. What do you think?
I don't think she was blocking it. I think he knew. I think because again, he knew when Vision was in trouble in the Halloween episode. He knew that he couldn't hear Agatha. He knew this sort of things that were going on. So I think that kind of again does speak to their appearance later on, and maybe why he's not freaking out is because he kind of knows something too. Because even the kind of the last look the two of them share too is a little bit different than the other two. So I think he knew what was going on. I think she also kind of realized that he knew.
Interesting. I think you're probably right there. And then a few more things that Wanda says to the kids. She says, I thought this was interesting. Wanda thanks them for choosing her to be their mom. I don't know what that necessarily implies, so we will see. I don't think it's like the movie Soul where you can like pick, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like where you choose. I don't.
Right, but also, I mean, if we are tying this to, how do we say his name?
Chthon or Chthon?
Chthon. If we're tying it to Chthon, then it could be similar to the whole in DC, Zeus, Diana Prince makes Wonder Woman out of this clay statue, whatever. Like theoretically, he could have put these random kids there that became her kids. Like there could be more. It kind of gives it that open ending where there is more to where the kids could come.
And then Wanda tells them, family is forever. We could never truly leave each other if we tried. They say goodbye to the kids. And then I got this, the next lines of dialogue between Wanda and Vision. I'll just go through it because I think that this is just a 10 out of 10, a clinic on how to make people care about something that they didn't used to. And it's just poetry. We get Wanda and Vision saying their final goodbyes. Vision goes, I read somewhere, this is after Vision turns on a light. He goes, I read somewhere that it's bad luck to say goodbye in the dark. And Wanda goes, no, you didn't. And Vision goes, no, perhaps not, perhaps. I just wanted to see you clearly. Wanda goes, and? And Vision goes, and there you are. We start to hear the Hex coming in, knowing that they only have a few more moments together. And Vision goes to Wanda. He says, Wanda, I know we can't stay like this, but before I go, I feel I must know. What am I? And folks, these next two lines, holy crap. Peter, do you read Wanda's line and then I'll do Vision.
Okay. These are such. It's just okay. You, Vision, are the piece of the Mind Stone that lives in me. You are a body of wires and blood and bone that I created. You are my sadness and my hope, but mostly you are my love.
And Vision comes in with I have been a voice with no body, a body but not human, and now a memory made real. Who knows what I might be next? We have said goodbye before, so it stands to reason.
We'll say hello again.
So long, darling. And Vision vanishes, the Hex comes apart, and I just Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen deserve every Emmy ever. That was the I mean, I didn't think we were gonna see something that came close to like what is grief but love persevering. And this is right there. This is insane. The I have been a voice with no body, a body but not human, and now a memory made real. Just it is so good. Paul Bettany. I tweeted this. If there's ever a movie about me, which folks, we know that's gonna happen. It's gonna be a great movie. I want Paul Bettany to be the one filming it or narrating it. Because I think he has been unbelievable in this show. Any thoughts on that, Peter? That whole scene?
It's just even just rereading it right now and just thinking about it again. It's like it was such a great callback to Infinity War again when Vision holds her head in his hands, and he's telling her, it's going to be all right because he knows what has to happen if they can't get the Mind Stone out. And so to have this full circle moment where now she's saying goodbye, but it's on her terms. Everything's now again on her terms. She's reclaimed everything that she's lost essentially, and the two of them are forever going to be connected. It was so because it transcended just the fact that this was a show about superpowered individuals. It's like it connects to people outside of it. It was
That's
like
why I love
life.
comic
People
books
go
so
through
much.
this. It was such a great. I mean, this can't be ignored for an Emmy. It can't be ridiculous to ignore it. This is so good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a great example of like why I love comic books and these superhero stories so much is because it does have these like real life undertones going on in them, and it's not as heavy, I guess, sometimes when it's like a superpowered human going through it or stuff like that. But it is relatable, and I thought that this show does a great job of showing how hard it is to move on from stuff, and I think that it should be deserving of an Emmy because if you really think about it, what this show is about is incredibly deep. The acting is incredible. The only reason that you would be able to like, I don't understand. It's like, oh, because there was a little action, we can't. I don't see that. I think that this show is incredible in the acting, especially. So Hex vanishes, so do Vision, the boys, the house. We're back to the property where it's just basically the foundation. There's no house where that Vision got for Wanda. And then Wanda is going to go on basically a walk of shame through the town where everyone's glaring at her. She says goodbye to Monica. Monica says the town will never understand what Wanda had to give up. Um, and I think Wanda essentially goes like, I don't think that would change anything. And Monica also though tells Wanda she would do the same thing to bring back her mom, and she doesn't think she's evil. And then Wanda says, I don't understand this power, but I will. And she goes off and she transforms into the Scarlet Witch and flies away. And we'll see her later in the post-credit scenes. What do you think, though, of that interaction between Monica and Wanda there?
I think it was again. It shows the complexity of Wanda as a character. It's like she's not fully a good person or fully a bad person. She's as a person, as a normal human being is. It's like you have layers to yourself. You're complex. You make choices, good and bad choices, and you live with them. You learn from them, and you keep moving. I thought it was interesting that again they had their similar grief storylines parallel one another throughout the series and the moments where we did see Monica, and Monica understood better than probably anyone what Wanda went through. And I think it made sense to have the two of them, because they're both integral to the future of the MCU going forward, have that final interaction of where we're going. And I think it's interesting that I was reading that last line that Wanda has, that I don't understand this power, what I will, was added in post after they finished filming everything. So there were two, that one and Agatha's line about you don't know what you've done, what you create. What is it? You don't
You've
know.
unleashed or whatever.
Yeah, you don't know what you've unleashed. Those two were added after the show was done.
Interesting.
So I think, again, because the writers were working with an awareness of Doctor Strange, certain things do have to be made to line up. And granted, this show was supposed to premiere with just maybe 5 months to go before Doctor Strange.
I thought it was a month.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought it was longer than a month, but I did see, but very, very close.
Yeah, I thought it
Doctor
was like
Strange.
somewhere like 4 to 6 weeks, then Doctor Strange would be out. But I saw this online a little bit. There's Monica started getting a lot of heat, basically, or not heat, just fans talking about a show for basically letting Wanda go and not even like saying like, hey, you got to kind of answer for what you just did. You had all these thousands of people under mind control, and I kind of, when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, why didn't Monica do something about that? And then, though, you have to think, Monica just saw the director of S.W.O.R.D. unload 10 bullets at 2 children. So I don't think she's like, oh, let's take you to S.W.O.R.D. They know what they're doing. And I obviously think S.W.O.R.D. will get a little better or something, probably, if Monica's going to have any role to do with it. But I do understand why Monica didn't like say, hey, you have to be turned in, because I mean, she's gonna turn him into the guy.
What are you gonna turn into at this point?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's like no Avengers. There's all this stuff. So we see Hayward also get arrested, and then let's talk about the 2 post-credit scenes we get. The first one, Monica is asked to come talk to someone in a movie theater, and we see that it is a S.W.O.R.D. agent who turns into a Skrull. And this is sent by what I assume is Nick Fury, and it wants her to go up to space. You're not grounded anymore. And so I assume we are going to see Monica go up to space, to S.W.O.R.D., where Nick Fury is, and she will finally be able to tell Nick Fury that she's able to glow like her Auntie Carol, because that was set up beautifully in Captain Marvel. Anything on that, Peter?
I liked it. I liked that was that first post-credit scene. Did it what a traditional Marvel post-credit scene does. It sets up it further cements what you think is happening. It's like, so this is where we're going next. So we're going into space, if we think about it, with Captain Marvel 2. We're going to go into space with the Eternals. We have all this
Secret
space
invasion
stuff happening now. Yeah.
So
I liked it. I liked that the first one was space.
Okay, and then our second post-credit scene, very good post-credit scene. We go see Wanda at a cabin in the mountains. We don't know where. We'll speculate on where in a second. But basically what's cool, you get this one-shot camera fly in, and it follows Wanda as she's sitting out on the porch. Very, very much like Incredible Hulk vibes when he's like out in the wilderness, like trying to be peaceful or whatever at the end of Incredible Hulk. But basically, it follows Wanda inside. She's like drinking tea. She's pouring tea. And then, though, you go into the room in the house and you see an astral projection. I think that's what it is, right?
Yes.
From like Doctor Strange does. And Wanda is doing that while she is reading the Darkhold. When you hear all these like evil sounding sounds, you see all the red chaos magic. And it ends with us hearing the voices of Billy and Tommy. Or is it just one of them? Or is it both?
I thought it was both. I think I watched it with closed captions and it said both.
Okay,
so I'm
yeah.
gonna go with both.
And so they are stuck somewhere, wherever that may be. We'll learn more probably about that when we learn more about the Darkhold, wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, I think it's telling the fact that they're not gone. Like, so they technically should have been gone because the hex is gone, but they're not gone. They're somewhere. Which again, I think. I mean, the fact that she's at the mountain too, which could be one, if I'm pronouncing it correct, Wundagore Mountain.
Yeah.
You know, so if it's that, then I mean, there's all these things in play. There's
that's the home of
still
Chthon.
Yep. And if she's still using the chaos magic and she's at the mountain, I mean, this could set up some very interesting things to come in Doctor Strange too.
Yeah. My take on this also was I was always skeptical about them having Wanda be a villain. I just was like, I don't know if they're gonna really do this. They really set it up. They really set her up being a villain. And yeah, she might not be the big villain. Kathan might be, but I definitely think for the first half or so of Doctor Strange 2, she is going to be some sort of a villain. What do you think?
I think that could definitely be the case for like either the first third, first half, and then they team up in the end because
Yeah,
it
that
could
will
go
need to
both
happen.
ways though, because it has to be done. We've already done technically Civil War, which did have our superheroes fighting one another because that's what we needed. We're at the point of the height of powers. Like, what else are you
Mhm.
going to do? So you need to find someone that Doctor Strange is going to be able to go blow to blow with. And at this point, Wanda is technically the strongest Avenger out there. So it's like,
Mm.
what is she going to face that's going to be equivalent to that? And I'm curious to see if she does show up in Spider-Man Far From No Way Home. Is
Yeah,
that what
No
it
Way
is?
Home. Yeah. hmm
So
Yeah, I think you're right. Um, I have a few questions down here. Well, we've answered some of them already, naturally just talking about this, but I'll look through. Um, I saw a rumor out there that people are like, where did White Vision go? He might have gone to Wakanda because that's like the last thing of the memories that Vision shows him.
interesting.
So I mean, maybe that could be something is because I'm just curious of when the next time we will see White Vision is, and I could see him maybe like not appearing in Doctor Strange too. Like I could see him giving like a little break and then come back. And that would be a cool way if they brought him into Black Panther 2. Um, oh, and this is a question that I really want you to answer, and I want to see what people think. So, from the residents of Westview's perspective, so all the people in the town, this is a question for Peter and everyone out there. From Westview's residents' perspective, is Agatha the hero of the story in their eyes? Because all they see is basically Wanda do this to them and then her try to stop Wanda. What do you think?
I think if the Westview citizens are operating from that limited scope of understanding, if we look at the series as a whole from what they've kind of gone through, the Westview citizens, I think that they would see Agatha as the hero and Wanda as the villain, which would be an interesting setup again because theoretically right now Spider-Man is also considered the villain if you think about it at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. If you
Yeah,
haven't seen it, that's a spoiler, but sorry, everyone should have
it's
seen
been
that
a
movie by
while.
now.
Yeah.
So it's like that would be a secondary hero who's also now viewed as a villain,
Yeah. Interesting.
which is an interesting kind of setup they're going for. Where we've got two now that are.
hmm How would you grade this series?
I would say I would give it an A plus. I
A
think
plus, like
A
10 out
plus,
of 10. We
10 out of
like
10.
wow. So you don't think theoretically like this is like gonna be the peak of then what we're gonna see on Marvel TV? This is right up there. Because I
I
guess
think
I don't go 10 out of 10 because then we'd have nowhere to go up. But I think
okay,
it's like a
all
9.
right, okay. Then
You know
I'll
what I
go
mean?
9 out of 10. Let's go nine
I'm
out of
with you.
ten
Let's
since
go
we
9 out of
don't know
10.
where we're going. With the rating could be adjusted as the future projects come out. But again,
hmm
I think this sets the bar so high. This between the handling of the grief trauma storyline, the handling of the different coping mechanisms of the sitcoms, the handling of the introduction of new characters, the delving into the magic side of the MCU in such a strong way. The fact that we had Wanda and Vision that were these
Let's give it
underused
a
characters,
9.5. Give it a 9.5.
underused characters. The fact that, but again, the other series, while great, they have great characters, great actors. They're not going to have Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, who were the anchors of
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
And I don't think, again, every Marvel has such a great way of casting the right people in that these two really cared about the characters, it felt like, and based on the interviews they do, and really were invested into what they were bringing out into the world.
Yep. I could not agree more. Um, I think so. I'm gonna give you guys some rumors right now to wrap up of stuff that might have happened. Because Peter, one thing also is like there was so much pressure on WandaVision because it's the first Disney Plus no Marvel for a year or two. And so I think the fact that it did like live up to it week after week is an immense accomplishment, especially when you start to hear stuff like this. So Doctor Strange was supposed to show up in the last episode, but because of travel restrictions, because of COVID-19, he was unable to do that. That has been confirmed. The show was supposed to be 10 episodes long, but because of COVID stuff and delays, they had to crunch it into 9. That was confirmed. Senor Scratchy, the bunny, was revealed. There was a scene where he kind of like is protecting the Darkhold and chases the kids and Quicksilver around, and he like turns into a demon and chases them around. The director said that. That is confirmed. And like I said earlier, Doctor Strange 2. So right now we have all these questions and we have to wait a year to Doctor Strange 2. Originally, we were only going to have to wait like 4 to 6 weeks to get Doctor Strange 2 after this. So knowing all that, I mean, they did an incredible job, I thought. I was only bummed about the Quicksilver thing, but the more and more we've talked about this show, it's just so good. And yeah, I didn't get Quicksilver, but I don't know. You made a good point. We might see him again.
And because I feel like there is the possibility that they liked the idea of Quicksilver, but that he is going to have a separate vehicle to kind of create more out his storyline. Mm-hmm. So that's highly possible because they were technically Wanda and Pietro were together when we first meet them. So it's highly possible that they just were like, let's actually save a lot of his stuff for a future project.
Yeah, and one thing I thought about too is that if they were to have Doctor Strange show up, if they were to have the mutants come, I don't think we would get as satisfying of a finale on Wanda and Vision's love story, I guess. Because this episode, the way it was, it made us really think about that and hone on into that.
100%. And I think having the addition of those two things would have distracted and maybe lessened again the impact that these two characters had, because it would have been it would have been an abundance of riches. And I feel like this really focused in on why this show existed again for these two specific people that hadn't had their moment in the MCU yet.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Peter, anything else you want to say about this series before I go into some announcements for what we're going to be doing in the future here?
It's definitely made me look at the previous MCU movies with I pick up on more things now. Like I watched Endgame back a couple days ago, and Wanda's role in the finale fight scene. There's little things that she does that are stronger than you expect. Mm-hmm. That kind of were in the background to me because everything else that's going on that's so integral to the story.
This makes Age of Ultron a lot better.
Oh yeah, that's 1,000% better. It just kind of, even Vision's role also is kind of amplified as well. The fact that he could wield the hammer, I mean, that itself is like so much to the two characters. I'm excited there's still some unanswered questions. I like that because again, this is part of a bigger picture.
It's just the beginning.
I mean, if we get a season 2, I don't know what it would be. I don't know if we necessarily need it or if it would take away from this one, but I'm on board for whatever Marvel does. So.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, folks, we are not taking any breaks. We will be back next week for a Falcon and Winter Soldier preview show, because that will be coming out not today, Thursday, but next Thursday, so a week from now. And we'll be doing weekly Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes, as well as Peter. We're each going to have to take 4 hours out of our life and sit down and watch the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which is coming out next week, I believe. Like the same day as Falcon Winter Soldier, maybe? I don't know. But
that'd be unfortunate if it does, because Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to dwarf the audience.
Yeah, it will. Cut. And so we'll definitely be talking Snyder Cut. And then we're also thinking about doing maybe like a superhero MCU draft thing. I don't know, because things are always fun. Peter, thank you for being on. Our listeners, thank you for listening on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Podcast, or watching on YouTube. I love talking Marvel, and I know Peter does, and so we're trying to make this more of a community. So if you have questions, theories, send them in to us. We'd love to talk about it, and we're excited to talk Marvel every single week. Peter, God bless.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure being on this WandaVision ride. I'm excited for something completely different with the rest of the shows that are coming. But I think WandaVision was a nice way to kind of really jumpstart this conversation.
Yeah, the WandaVision going into Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is basically all about like military weapons and technology, is gonna be
conspiracy theories and all that stuff.
It'll be great though. So Peter, looking forward to that. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week. This has been the Pineapple Couch with B-Rob. See you next time.